we all know that setting expectations with employees is arguably one of the most important skill sets that we as managers can have. And yet, it is probably one of the hardest things to do because it is so hard to ensure that the expectations that we are communicating is actually reaching the person and having the impact that we want it to have. And so I know that this is a struggle or a pain point for many of you out there. And so if you have been struggling with this, and know that this video is for you, because I'm going to be sharing some tips and advice around how you can set really, really clear expectations with your team members. So if that's something you want to learn more about, then definitely hit on that like and subscribe button, and let's get started. Hey there, welcome back to the channel. And if you're new around here, well, my name is Mac and I'm a leadership coach, but I actually work specifically with first-time team managers and helping them to become effective leaders. And to that point, actually, if you are a high-achieving new manager and you have not received the training, the support, or even the guidance required to be effective and impactful in your role, then I want you to book a call with me using the link in the description box below so that you can learn a little bit more about the new Manager Accelerator program and how it's helping managers all over the globe right now learn to be far more effective and impactful in their role so that they can create this high performance, positive team environment and leave a true leadership legacy behind. So if that's you, if those are the results that you want, then definitely hit on the link in the description box below. All right, so let's get right into it when it comes to setting clear expectations. Like I mentioned in the onset, I know that this is something that is really hard for so many people. And I think it's because so many managers start from the wrong place. So tip number one is all actually about your mindset when it comes to setting clear expectations, okay? The first thing that you actually need to consider is the person that you are trying to set expectations with. You need to think about the way they communicate and also their role and what it is that you want them to actually do. So what I mean when I say this is that you kind of have to think about where that person currently is and whether or not you can speak to them in terms of outcome or activity. So if the individual that you are, dealing with is someone that, solves very complex problems, and so they have a higher level role, then you want to speak to them in terms of outcomes. You want to put on your outcome hat. But if that person is new or they're very front line, then you have to set expectations or speak to them in terms of activity. It has to be very step by step. Now, the reason why I want you to think about this from the very beginning is because it affects the entire conversation and it affects the entire way that you think about the expectations that you need to communicate to this person. So really have a think about, where's this person at? Is this a new person? Is this somebody that I really need to be very specific with? Or can I set expectations, but talk to them in terms of objectives, right? Rather than specific activity. So tip number two, when it comes to setting expectations with employees, is that you have to think about the what, the when, the why. Now, I know that this sounds so elementary, but sometimes it's the most simple things that make the most sense. So this is no different. When it comes to setting expectations, you have to run it through that list. So let me give you a couple of examples of a few questions that you want to ask yourself in preparation when it comes to setting these expectations, okay? With the what, the when, the why. So when it comes to the what, you want to ask yourself the following questions. What specifically do you want to see this person do? What examples can you use to articulate your point so that it really lands with this individual that you're talking to? When it comes to the when, you want to ask yourself, when do they need to complete this task? When do they need to start implementing these changes that you are suggesting? And when they get stuck, what is it that you actually want them to do? And then finally, the why. You want to think about, why am I asking this person to do this thing? And why does it need to be completed by this date? When it comes to the why, what you're actually doing is giving this person context. And context is one of the most important things that you can give anybody when it comes to setting expectations. Tip number three, when it comes to setting expectations with employees, is once you have this outline of the what, the when, the why kind of outlined in your mind, what you want to do is, of course, now have this conversation so that you can articulate it to them and communicate what your expectations are. Now, depending on the complexity of these expectations, I want to actually suggest that you just take your notes in with you. I know that there's like plenty of people that are like embarrassed to take in notes with them because I guess they fear the way that it looks. But here's the thing, like for me, I am willing to look a little bit foolish if it means that I am being very crystal clear in that conversation with you. Right? Like to me, it's worth looking a little bit foolish. And so if you know you're like the type of person that is going to forget details or that you might not necessarily communicate it the clearest, then it's better to take in notes with you. All you have to do is communicate up front why you have this note, this like one page with you, right? So create a one pager. And then as you begin to like communicate these expectations, just say, hey, listen, I ahead of time wrote out a couple of notes. And because I don't want to miss anything and I want to make sure that you clearly understand, I actually am bringing in these notes with me. So, if I'm looking down, that's what I'm looking down at, right? Just communicate. When you communicate up front, it makes things so smooth and nobody's going to think less of you. And if that, if your team member is like honestly thinking less of you, then something is wrong with them, not you. Because what you're demonstrating by taking this like one pager with you is that you truly care about the outcome. And that's how I view things, right? Like if I care about the outcome, I'm coming to you prepared. You know that I don't really care if I'm not prepared. You know what I'm saying? And so I want you to look at it the exact same way. Come prepared because you already did the work. So come prepared to the conversation. Just communicate up front why you have this piece of paper with you and stick to your outline so that you're being as crystal clear as possible. So tip number 4, when it comes to setting expectations with employees, is that you got to do like a reasonability check. You want to make sure like after you've gone through, all your expectations with them and you guys have talked about it, you want to make sure that you're just like asking a quick question of, hey, does this all sound reasonable to you? And the reason that you want to do this, and I've talked about this on the channel before, is that we all as human beings have this like desire to be seen and heard, right? And oftentimes, even if we don't necessarily agree with something, we just want to be able to voice our opinion on whatever that thing is, right? So it's a big deal to ask for reasonability for buy-in purposes. The other reason it's important to ask for reasonability is to see if it's actually reasonable. Sometimes what we're asking people to do is just straight up not reasonable. And that's maybe because we don't have all the information. And so we have, a certain expectation. And so by asking, hey, is this reasonable? Then we're getting the information that we need to know in order to know if it's actually reasonable. But like I said, if it's like a non-negotiable thing, like if it's something that they absolutely must do, there's no negotiating it, we still want to ask them that question so that we can actually gain their buy-in because we've given them that opportunity to voice their concerns. And even if, like I said, it's a non-negotiable and they're voicing their concerns, you can let them know like, hey, I understand your perspective on this, but at the end of the day, this still has to be done and here's why. Right? But it's still important that you just do like a quick reasonability check to just to make sure that you are being reasonable and to make sure that you are holding space for them to either object or to share with you information that you might need to know. Number 5, when it comes to setting expectations with employees, is that you absolutely must provide feedback. So expectation setting does not end with the conversation in the room. Okay. Expectation is a constant effort. You have to like provide feedback and let that person know if they're on track or if they're off track. And if they're on track, then you want to, make sure that you're reinforcing them, give them that thumbs up to let them know like that's exactly what I want to see or that's exactly it. And if they're off track, then you need to like stop them right in their tracks as soon as possible so they don't continue to waste time or so that they don't continue to think that what they're doing is actually right. You know what I mean? So you have to make sure that you provide feedback in between feedback. Like don't wait until like a performance review to give someone feedback around the expectations. Make sure that you're actually doing it in like small increments so that they know whether or not they're on track or off track. All right, guys, so that is pretty much it in terms of my 5 tips when it comes to setting very clear expectations with employees. I hope that you found this video to be valuable. And if you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and to subscribe so that you don't miss out on any other content that I share on this platform every single Tuesday. All right, that is it for me. I hope you have a fantastic rest of the week. Do not forget to keep smiling and I'll see you in the next one.